I'm just trying to make sure the audio is not messed up before I like really get rolling.
No, I got you.
Because it's not rolling the YouTube quite yet, even though it says it's streaming live. There we go. Okay. There we go. We're good. All right. So today we have a live question and answer with Inez Carrasquillo, Rogue Invitational champion of 2024 for this year, log world record holder. I'm sure I'm missing a few other things. Feel free to let them know.
North America's strongest. And that's pretty much it for the last 2 years. So
there was a few questions that we had regarding like how women's sports is growing. And obviously you made history with the Rogue Invitational. You know, how does it feel to be the champion of the Rogue Invitational and have one of the highest payouts in women's sports history for a single event?
yeah, so it was exciting. I still don't believe it to this day that I actually won. I have to like look at recaps and be like, oh, that was me performing out there and not some, imposter. Um, I think that it's a huge improvement to the prize pool for women. It's a big step in a big direction that we're on the same level as men, and we're here to stay, and people want to watch us. And I think that's
I agree.
yeah, and people were excited. Like after the contest was over, people were like, "Can I take pictures with you?" Like my daughter is so fascinated, and like my daughter wants to do strong woman, and she didn't know that there were women in this sport, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever was to just be a part of that.
That's incredible. So there was a few people that complained about men and women going at the same time for the farmer's walk to log press. I really find that interesting. As a promoter, I actually like running the men and women at the same time. And most local shows will do that to keep the judging pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that as a competitor? Would you rather go head to head with somebody in the same division, or did you kind of like running against your peers in the other division?
I liked running against the men. It was like a nice little challenge, and it goes to show you, like, the men already. So, like, I went against Bobby Thompson, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows Bobby, and then a lot of people probably didn't know who I was, and it was like, oh shit, like she's keeping up with Bobby, like, and he's like one
Mm-hmm.
of the best pressers in the world, and I thought that was really cool to like that we got to showcase, like, hey, we're like speeding away with them, like our weights are comparable, and you know we're making headway with the same guys that they know, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of it. I thought it was a very symbolic thing that the Rogue did. And I know people were like, oh, well, it was a little inconsistent, but I was like, honestly, it kind of made the judging a little more consistent. And it was a speed event anyways. So
Oh, it's
like,
definitely a speed event. Yeah, and
I,
it was fun to watch because
yeah,
it's like you're not just watching the women, and it forced people like that were maybe like on the fence about whether they wanted to watch the women's show
mhm.
to watch the women and get a better view of like, oh, who are these athletes? Like they're keeping up and they're killing it.
So after winning North Americas and after winning the Rogue, where do you think female sports is going with like, obviously we got the Arnold Strongwoman Classic coming up. Do you think there's going to be more big pro shows for the women at this point?
I think the Shaw is going to become a bigger show. Brian
Mm-hmm.
Shaw's been doing a great job with, Strongest Man on Earth. And I think that the Strongest Woman on Earth is going to be something that comes up next. It's just a matter of when, not if. And I think that's going to be the next big pro show. North America's Strongest has become a bigger show. Last year was the first year that women were, invited to that title. And I think that this year is going to be even bigger. 8 events. It's going to be a long one. So I'm excited for it this year. And then America's Strongest has always been a big title,
Mm-hmm.
big prize pool. They've always had 20K as the prize money. So I think that that's another, it's another show that's a big step in the direction of like bigger shows for women.
And they've done a great job including other divisions in that equation too. Like they've raised the prize
Mm.
money for the middleweight and lightweight classes too. So shout
And
out
the
to Strong for
Masters.
that.
Yeah.
Like particularly James did a really good job with that. So definitely shout out to him for that. Um, Obviously I'm not going to skip over OSG, but there's definitely been like some headbutting with like people going into entries for OSG. Do you think that at some point OSG really won't be the contending title for World's Strongest Woman? Do you think it'll end up being some other show? Or do you think they'll end up making you your own like kind of show where it's like World's Strongest Woman again? Like they did in like, I think it was what, the 90s they did that, right?
I believe so. Like, Giants Live owns the title of, World's Strongest Woman because of OSG. But in my humble opinion, I think that the Rogue Invitational is now the correct representation of the World's Strongest Woman right now. And not just because I got the title, just because like the caliber of competition that it was and the production of it, I think made it World's Strongest Woman title worthy. I'm not saying that OSG is not worthy of that title, but with the prize money and like, the
The
invites,
talent.
the talent, like there are very talented women there, but it wasn't representative of top 10, I believe. You know
I
what
would
I mean?
agree. I would
Yeah.
agree.
But talented women, not trying to say nobody deserved to not be there or anything, but you know, I think that the Arnold Classic and the Rogue Invitational really showcase like top 10. And now there's a direct path to get invited to the Arnold from Strongman Corp. And I think that that's going to, add to the talent pool, and that's going to make the show even better because now there's a direct way of actually like becoming a part of that circuit, is like what I like to call it. And it's just becoming bigger and better.
Yeah, it's definitely neat because before it was kind of just like if you were enough of an internet sensation, you'd kind of get invited back in the day.
Yeah.
And it seems like they've had more of a system to it now, which is great because it's still kind of confusing on how to be a pro strong woman. Like I'd imagine like when you first started being a pro, you weren't just getting invited to every show you wanted to go to.
Yeah, no, I got my Arnold invite because I won. So I won this show called Beasts of the Bluegrass in
Mhm.
Kentucky. This is when they had Platinum Plus shows instead of Pro-Ams. And I won that show and got an Arnold invite. The Arnold got canceled that year because of COVID. So I did OSG first. And then I did the Arnold Amateur after that. And that's when I got my pro card.
So would you say that the Arnold Strong Woman Classic is probably statically the heaviest show that's coming up to date at this point?
1000% heaviest show. They push it every year, and it's like, what is the barrier of which we're gonna hit a wall? And it's like no one's hit a wall. Like we're continuing to push it. Lucy's pushing that 700 deadlift. I'm
Mhm.
pushing a 400-pound overhead. We're at a 600+ pound frame, and it's uphill. It's like it's wild. The weights of things like our stone to shoulder, the heavier stone is 300 pounds with no tacky. That's wild. And
Yeah,
like
that's insane.
that was a world record at one point, just to get it over bar with tacky, with grip
Mhm.
shirts, with all that stuff. And it's like no equipment whatsoever we're using. It's like just you and you and the stone are one, and that's just how it is.
Lift this rock.
Lift this rock.
Okay.
The grip requirements for the Arnold are pretty insane. For those of you who don't know, I guess we'll list some of the events and we'll go over each of them and how you feel about them. So, of course, the first event is the elephant bar deadlift for a 1 rep max. Obviously, your deadlifts come along. You're not just a good presser anymore. Like from what people understand, you're not
I'm
just
an
a good
okay
mover.
deadlifter.
You know,
You're
like,
like, I've, got my 600. Well,
yeah, exactly. 600-pound deadlift. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you plan on hitting for the elephant bar deadlift if you're allowed to share it? I don't want to ruin your coach's like strategies.
No. We're just our objective for every show is just to PR everything.
Got it.
So my last PR was 605, 610, 615, whatever feels good that day. As long as I PR that lift, I'm gonna do good on the event, and that's what matters. We strategize it like that. Like we're not looking for just event wins, we're looking for PRs. And I think that's important for my strongman career and like
Mhm.
my development as an athlete, because we're not so focused on like certain events. We're focused on like the overall picture of the show. And I think that's important.
And that also lets you know if you peak properly too.
Oh,
Because like
totally.
a lot of people don't focus on like being their best selves that day. They're just like metagaming too hard almost. And they're like, oh, well, I need to do this much to beat this person. And then
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere like that because their gym footage doesn't match their performance at the comp. So, and that's
Oh,
good or bad,
100%.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm sure we've all seen like competitors where they look awesome on Instagram and then you see them like compete and they're not the same person. And then you could say the same thing in the other direction where everything looks really easy, nothing looks incredibly heavy, and then out of nowhere they're a stud in the competition. So
Yeah, that was me at the Rogue Invitational. Nothing was really, I wasn't really pushing anything like super crazy. You know what I mean? Like deadlift, we were hitting 85%, 90%. Like we never really maxed out
mhm,
the deadlift. We were just hitting 2 rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, percentages, speed reps, and it all
mhm.
built up to that 605, which is really, it was really cool because I'm like, I've never felt this way before. So this is pretty cool that I'm able to pull it at the show where it matters.
Well, I'd say you're really modest about that because your presses off the blocks before it was even announced for the Arnold were insane. You hit what, 375 for two on an axle off the blocks?
So it's because I request to have that in my program. I'm always like, can I just get one thing that I really like in my program? And it's always something off blocks. Like, it could be log off blocks, it could be axle, it's usually axle because there's no whip and it's just like
Mhm,
pure strength off the blocks. And I think that's why my press has gone up so much is because I don't
mhm,
really use whippy bars. Even like with deadlift, the deadlift bars are usually taken at my gym. So I usually deadlift on a stiff bar.
mhm.
Like, so to make things harder for myself, I go the way of most resistance instead of least resistance.
And that explains why your deadlift's so snappy.
It and like learning my leverages. I have really short arms and really long legs. If you ever meet me in
Mhm.
person, you'll be like, "What the hell is this body shape?" Um, but I
I have
just
the
had a
same shape, I'm just shorter.
yeah, yeah. I'm 6'1", so I'm like, but just learning my leverages and learning where my sticking point is right underneath my kneecap. So we do a lot of block pulls and we do a lot of speed pulls and stuff to try to get me over that hump of like, if I can get it over that kneecap, I can pull it. I can lock it out. It's just getting it to my kneecap. I'm very fast off the ground, slow, and then I'm good at lockout. So it's like right in the middle is where I have struggles with.
Get stuck in no man's land, basically.
Yeah, it's the worst because you're like, damn, I got it off the ground. Damn, it's going back to the ground.
Yeah.
All right. So for the second event, obviously we're looking at
The press gauntlet, I believe.
the press gauntlet. So for obviously we know you're one of the best presses in the world. How do you feel about this one? Because it probably isn't that heavy for you.
The log is heavy. The log is
Mhm.
265, I want to say, but you can either
Nice.
do a 225 log or a 265 log. It's a trump.
Mhm.
So you get to pick. I'm of course going to do the 265. I'm hoping for 5 reps because it's a rep out at the end, clean and rep
Mhm.
away. So I'm hoping for like 5 to 6, but we'll see because the deadlift's going to take a lot out of me. So I'm like, you got to like strategize like how, and then the frames right after. So it's like, how many are you going to do and how many before you can like, you know, before you're completely taxed out? Because usually the
Mhm.
Arnold has 5 events. So
Right.
it wasn't as taxing. And now it's like 6 events. That whole extra event is a big deal. And
And
so
the medleys and the moving events are very hard.
oh yeah, the stone is not terribly heavy, so I'm not worried about the stone press. Circus dumbbell 155, so I'm not worried about the circus dumbbell.
Mhm.
It's just how many on the log is going to be appropriate to either to win the event or get really close to winning the event.
And you'd also want to save some energy too for that world record that you probably have.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
So kind of moving into that, how do you well, I guess we'll ask about the frame first before we move on to the big jerk. But how do you feel about the ramp frame carry? Obviously, you were
Do you feel like you have a personal vendetta against this
I
friend? You
do.
need to be like, I'm gonna own this bitch this time.
Yes, it was scary at first. Like the first time I picked the frame up, I was like, whoa, like I have some trauma going on right now. It's like probably some head trauma, probably a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
But as I started, like I PR'd it, I got 650 pounds for 40 feet the other day,
Oh wow.
and I
Nice.
didn't drop it. And I'm like, if I don't drop this in my frame, it's caked in chalk. There's no knurling, so there's no grip to it
Mhm.
whatsoever. So it's like if I can do this, I can do this at the comp without dropping it. And that's the goal this year is don't drop it.
Yeah.
So it's like
Well,
that'll be a PR.
well, I remember when you did your seminar at the training center, you did the frame carry up the ramp just fine because we used the bay door ramp,
Yeah, I
and
remember
you were
that.
hustling with pretty close to what, like 85% of competition
Yeah.
weight, and you
Yeah.
went up there in like what, 10 seconds?
Yeah, that's all I got to do is just not drop it. That was my mistake was I dropped it and then I was about this far away from the line and I was like, "Oh, I can just kind of like lurch it over the line." And then
Mhm.
that's when I slipped and I fell in.
Mm.
Infamous injury there at the Arnold.
Well, you might call it infamous, but I think that's when everyone said you ain't here
I
no
mean, it
bell.
was pretty badass. You're like, yeah, no, like I'm still here.
Yeah,
And
I
the
was
fact
not
that you still
leaving.
put
You're
up
like, I'm
points,
not leaving. Like this is way too much effort to be here. Like I'm not leaving.
it was
Yeah.
very
No.
motivating to see that because a lot of people really would have quit, and you
Yeah.
didn't.
Oh yeah, no, there's no quit.
Yeah, you're
I
like,
was
I
like
can't breathe and I'm here doing this shit and still owning it and I'm like, still being other
the
people. So
the breathing wasn't the hard part. It was seeing through the one eye because one of my eyes was swollen shut. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
then the other part was the pressure in my face. Every time I bent over, I was like, whoa, like I'm seeing Jesus here.
Right.
And
oh God.
so, so it's like bending over to pick up the circus dumbbell for that one event, bending over for the stones. I was like, oh my God, like if I bend over one more time, I'm not coming back up.
Well, I was
No.
telling my friends when you competed in the Rogue Invitational. Actually, I told my wife this. I was like, if Inez doesn't trip, she's winning the comp. Like, like I was like, you flat out have it. So
Yeah,
like,
that's all I got to do is not trip, but I'm clumsy, so it happens.
Is
not
the
anymore.
is the grip on that ramp like is it real slippery or does it have like any type of like
It's like wooden planks that are like, yeah, they're, I want to say like stained planks.
Mhm.
so a
So they're
little
not
slippery?
a little slippery, I would say. Yeah. I wore Nobles. I'm going to try Vans this year and like just walk up the ramp in the Vans and see if the Vans are better. So I've been training in both shoes week over week. I'm just like switching and alternating them. So I'm good with both pairs, but I'm going
Yeah.
to see which one's better. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have shoes that have a good grip because the last thing you want to do is trip again. Because
Yeah, no, fuck
not
that.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially with an event that I love so much on day two. I'm like, I'm not hurting myself on day one.
Because that really was a good event for you. If you literally went, not even kidding, 2 feet forward more, you would have had a great score. Like
I
you
know.
were
No, I
so
was
close.
Yeah.
literally 5 inches away from the line. It was crazy. It
Yeah,
was right there. I think I still placed like fifth on the event, which is like okay, cool. Like carry me off in a stretcher, still give me my points.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So day two events. Really excited about the big jerk because obviously it tests who has the best like power and speed and strength. So like, how do you feel about the big jerk event?
I'm so excited. I really hope that there's some girls out there pushing 300 and like
Mhm.
I want someone to really push me and I really want to attempt 400. Like that's like the goal. It would be a 400-pound like on the big stage because it'd be like cool if I hit in the gym, whatever. But like to hit it in front of like all these people would be really awesome. And to be on the lower end of the men presses like would be
That's
kind of
incredible,
cool, right? It'd be kind of cool.
Mhm.
especially weighing 150 pounds less than most of them.
Yeah, I'm 265 right now, so I don't know about that, but
Well, I think the lightest guy on their end is probably what, 295, 300.
probably yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. That's still ridiculous to even think about the fact that somebody's contemplating hitting 400 pounds over their head.
I wanted so bad. I hit 350 for two this week.
Mhm.
I probably could have hit it for one or two more if I like wanted to. Um, but we're like he's like kind of pulling me back on the reins a little bit because he's like, you're fine, like you're gonna do good on this event. Let's focus on like the moving event and like the frame. And I'm like, no, I want to push 400.
Well, also it's like he's like, do you want to win or do you just want to win this event?
Yeah, exactly what he says.
Yeah, that's good that he brings that up to you though, because it's super important to like prioritize like winning the show as opposed to just winning like your favorite event.
It's hard when you get an event that's like your thing. Like, this is my thing. Pressing off blocks is my favorite thing to do. And it's like you get like siloed into like, oh, this is my event. Like, I gotta win this. Like, and then you get so focused on it, and then it's like you forget everything else is going on. You're like, oh shit, I got like 5 more events I gotta do.
Yeah, you're like, okay, can we just like get through this real fast? Like, okay, deadlift's done. All right. Now it's time for the press.
Yeah, exactly,
like, okay,
exactly.
I'm done for the rest of the day. I don't want to do anything else.
So one question to have for you with how they, I guess, describe the events, because apparently it's like a big set of paragraphs on the rulings, right?
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
I just send
Are
him to
they
my
ever going to
post,
use?
I'm like, I have him read all of it for me and give me the points.
Are they ever going to have like a visual of the actual event at some point, so it's like less confusing?
Probably not. and then at the rules meeting, like they changed stuff, and we're like, was this in the rules? And like who read the rules and like remembered what the rules actually said.
I mean, sometimes that happens. I mean, as a promoter, I could definitely say that you might have to change things on the fly, just depending on like what the venue says sometimes. So it might have something to do with that.
Oh no, totally. And not just that, but like, day of changes makes sense because of like
Time.
for now, time's a big thing for running behind. Like last year they changed the circus dumbbell event for us with like going out there and getting like 4 attempts, and then like the attempt that you want to take for reps, that's the one that you go for. They changed that event like twice, so it's like you just got to be ready to do anything that could happen. And I think that's what makes the sport so fun. Just show up the best you and call it a day.
Basic rules of strongman. You're
Pretty
like,
much.
okay, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Okay, cool. I'm here. I'm ready.
So how do you feel about that?
Me out, but yeah, the rules changes used to stress me out, but now I'm like, I expect at least one to happen. So I'm like, more chill about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that log carry to the backward sled drag? Like,
I don't know how to really. We're like practicing with logs to like carry like regular logs and like with heavy sled poles.
Yeah, you're supposed to carry like a log with handles into like a weird big sled and then pull it backwards.
So you're just
is what I heard.
and then throwing it on a.
Basically,
I don't know how big they are. But,
I don't either. Yeah, we don't really know much about that event. We got a drawing of it.
Drawing.
Which was awesome because it's like, okay, we got a visual of like what they're trying to explain to us. But excuse me. I'm not sure how it's gonna be fun because we're gonna see the implements literally the day before. So it's gonna be like, oh, hopefully we practice this the correct way.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part, right? How do you think they make that work when people don't speak English as a first language? Because that's got to be like a nightmare.
I have no idea. I am thankful that English is my first language and I don't have to worry about that. I know they have probably great translators for, the other athletes and stuff, and make sure.
Or just pick it up and put it on there.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Hopefully it's very simple and it's not,
Exactly. I know at OSG it has to be a big issue because there's so many athletes from so many different countries, and I can only imagine like how many translators people bring with them because of like the rules get so complicated and stuff. So I don't know. I think it's easier for them to do it with us because there's only 10 of us, 10 or 11 of us. So it's like it's not like we have a random person from this country that only speaks this language in this one country, you know what I mean? Versus like everyone, pretty much we know everybody and everyone's, able to have a translator or whatnot.
That's good. Because I've heard about how it's been a problem before. People will say some guy's cheating because he didn't know how to speak English, so he used it as an excuse. It's more of the men that do that, I guess. But
sounds about right. There was like a big thing at OSG 2022 or 20. Yeah, I think it was 2022. when they were like, "Oh, you're allowed to use briefs for the deadlift event," and then at the rules meeting, they were like, "No briefs are allowed." And
What?
then we were like, "Wait, no, you said in the Instagram post that briefs were allowed." And then later that night, he was like, "All right, briefs are allowed." And then people were like, "But you told us we
That
can
happened
use
at
briefs."
Masters Nationals this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like, well, we had a bunch of complaints, and apparently most masters can't. Like, I was like, that makes it harder to reach the bar. Why would that doesn't make any sense?
Briefs make it so much harder. I don't like wearing briefs. I like suits, but like I couldn't wear briefs. I need the
Well, my whole
straps to like pull me back.
Well, it's weird when people say briefs and then they're talking about strongman shorts, which I really
Oh,
think
like
they
the
need to.
neoprene ones.
Yeah, like if you wear neprene shorts, they're not briefs.
Yeah, no, they're
They
not
don't,
briefs.
they don't add 50 pounds to your deadlifts.
I wish that'd be
You
nice.
know, so that's one of those things where like I almost wish raw deadlifts were more of the standard of the sport, and then you know, or maybe have suits when it's just a bunch of hard grip events or whatever. And I think that's more appropriate for having them, but I don't know.
No
It
grip
also makes it
events.
take longer.
We don't do grip events here.
You have like 3 grip events in this comp.
Just
No,
like
no, no.
no,
That's not-
no. It's less than last year because we had Denny's last year and
That was
Farmers.
awful.
Oh, I hate Denny's with a passion. My friend is doing a competition next month and he has Denny's and he's like, "Can I borrow your Denny handles?" I'm like, "You can keep them." Like, I never want to see these things again.
Yeah, I hope I never have to do them in a big show either.
I tried doing the spinny thing, the spinning
I
tactic.
And it's
saw.
banned.
That was it was strangely really effective. If you ever did spinny bat, like just in general as a kid, like it's pretty much the same thing, but it was like actually effective, but not with like 500 pounds.
Yeah, no. You won't be spinning very much.
Whoops.
Somebody said stick figure drawing for your visual.
Oh my god.
You're like, all right, you're gonna put this over here. It's just a block. You're like, yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
How was the drawing that they gave you though? Like what was the quality of it?
Like IKEA type drawing.
Yes, it was like sketched out pretty well and like but I'm not good visual person. Like I have to like see it in person for me to understand like what I'm doing. So I was like, is there a chain on it or like is the handles neutral or like I know there's a sled, so the sled's fine, but like how are the logs gonna look? Because running a log would be super awkward.
And the other thing too is, does it
Yeah.
have sleeves? Does it not have sleeves? Is it like
gotta hug
bundled up
it?
like they were at Worlds, where there's like 3 of them attached to each other? Like we don't know.
We don't know. But that's
My
the fun
friend-
of it. Like we don't know. So it makes it more interesting.
I think it'd also make it safer though if they actually just like I think they should make it a standard of just showing a visual. It'll also help for marketing because I mean they do it with the deadlifts. So
Well, the hard part with the Arnold is like they make stuff for the show. So like
Yeah.
they're probably still making it right now, a few weeks out. So like they probably just didn't know what it looked like because at the time, because they're making it now, Slater makes the logs for us like for every show. Because
Mhm.
every show I've done with the Slater log has been a different weight, except the American Oak is 275. And the one at Rogue Invitational was 265, and this one's 262 or something like that. So I think he makes a new log for every show. They're beautiful. Like those logs are so beautiful. The only thing I say about those logs though are they're 10-inch logs for women and they're 12 for men. And I think that both of us should have 12-inch logs.
I like a 12-inch
12-inch log
more.
feels better. We've had women use the True Slater log, which is a 12-inch log, and it feels so good.
It's just so much easier to clean and press, in my opinion. But
and the weight
Yeah.
distribution is way better too.
I have a really hard time cleaning the 10-inch log. So like it's one of the things that I've been working on. And every time I'm like, I'm in Rogue or Arnold prep, I'm like, oh, back to the 10-inch.
I actually think a 10-inch log is harder to lift than the 12.
It is. I think it is too. Especially at the weights that we're pushing, it's a lot harder.
I feel like I can't extend. Like I feel like I can't like.
Well, you remember what a 135 log feels like? That's kind of
Yeah,
similar,
Big
but
Bertha, I
wood.
hate that freaking log.
Is it a Titan?
Hmm?
Is it a Titan log?
No, it's worse. It's
horrible.
it's
Worst handles, worst weight distribution ever. It's just fat. It's not even fat. It's 10-inch, but it's heavy and just not.
It's Christian Strength or something like that. CSS or something like that.
I've never.
I don't even. It's a very weird. Like it's definitely well welded, but it's just so dense. It's
So
like
dense.
I call her Big Bertha.
I like that.
It's like you ever seen the metal plated ones with the crosses on them? It feels like that.
Oh, okay.
But not as grippy.
Power Center makes logs like that. They're pretty hefty.
No thanks.
Yeah, but the Mike Bardos ones are like really grippy, so they don't feel too bad.
Mike Bardos sounds like an angel compared to that one, and it's heavier.
All right, before I derail us too much.
Sorry.
How do you feel about the Stone to Shoulder event?
I'm excited. I love Stone to Shoulder. It's my favorite stone event. Everyone thinks it's over bar or the platform, but I'm like, nope, to shoulder is my favorite. It's who's going to pass out the first because that's just what Stone to Shoulder is. Like, my arms are tore up from this week. I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah, I can.
But I'm very excited for Stone to Shoulder. It's a Trump too, so it's a 255 stone, I believe, and a 300. So
those are both heavy.
Brand new stones. No tacking's ever been put on them. They're made for this show. They're Atlas stones. They're not natural stones. So I like Atlas over natural stones for Stone to Shoulder because there's not like, is there a handle here that I could grab, or like it's like no handles. Yep, no handles. You're just picking up the rock and you're putting it on your shoulder, and I like that.
Who's got the best crush grip, basically?
Yeah, Angelica.
Yeah. So that actually leads into my next question. Who do you think is going to impress everyone? Like, regardless of whether they podium, who do you think is going to come out and like really make a statement for themselves?
Watching her training, Sam Beliveau has been killing it. Like, she's hit that 270-pound log. She's, killing the Stone to Shoulder. Her circus dumbbell is ridiculous.
Her behind the neck press is good too.
Yeah, 300 pounds she hit. So I think she's going to blow everyone's minds, and she always does because she's such a tiny girl, and she's so mighty for how tiny she is. And I love that about her. She's not intimidated by, how big we are compared to her. And I think that impresses me, as an athlete and as a friend. I think she's going to crush it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel with her training, she's going to do really well for sure. And is there anyone that you think is like, and this goes for the men or the women, is there, I'm not going to ask for your podium predictions because I said I wouldn't. So
yeah, no, I'm terrible at those.
It's okay. It's better not to know.
Me, and then me, I don't know.
Second place, me. Third place, me.
That's what I'm hoping. Maybe 1 through 5, but possibly me.
So of course, like I've put in like a few predictions, and I think that you'll definitely be in the podium.
Thank you.
Like none of those events are bad for you. You're obviously like you're at that point where like you found your groove. You know how to stay smooth and consistent, and I think that's like pretty much all you needed was that Rogue Invitational win to like kind of prove that point.
I think North America is what got my confidence a little bit back too, because that show, it wasn't the heaviest show that I've done, but it certainly was like, oh, I can like keep up, and I can like, come back from my face injury with like a meet that's not the Rogue Invitational. I did not want to go straight into that with that mentality of like, am I going to get hurt again? Like, what's going to happen? Exactly. So I think that North America's was a great show for me too.
So how was it overcoming that? Because obviously, like people who've had injuries at like say a competition, or even just like say you get into a car accident or something like that, and you get nervous about going to the gym. How did you mentally deal with that?
Just really focusing and like concentrating on what I was doing. I'm a bit of an airhead, and in the gym, sometimes I'm not paying attention, when I should be paying attention. And it showed at the competition. I fell and I slipped, and it was because I made a stupid mistake that like I've never would have done in the gym. I would have
Mhm.
never picked up something half-assed and like try to lurch it over a line. I would pick it up straight and start walking with it, you know. But I rush, and sometimes I make those mistakes because I'm not thinking. And I think that now coming into this with a mentality of like focus, 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 and not be a complete airhead sometimes. I think that that mentality has helped me a lot get through, you know, that injury, you know, and just the support of people like helping me like overcome it with like all the positive comments that I've been getting, all the people that were like, I can't believe you finished day 2. That was crazy. It like gave me a new perspective of like the kind of athlete that I am.
Yeah, boss ass bitch. No, sorry. Is this PG? No.
It's not being PG. I think she said fuck a second ago.
Sydney ruined the PG rating.
It's okay.
But like that's true grit. I mean, that's the part of the sport too. I mean, that's like no, this is strongman. This is me not giving up. I'm pushing to be my best, and you can't scare me away with a small injury, which was not small, but you know.
Yeah, it was so bad that the police were called at my son's school, and they thought that I got beat up, and they were like, "Is everything okay at home? Like, are you okay? Are you safe? Is Lamar
And then you
safe?"
have to
And I'm
show
like,
them the video.
I had to show them all the video. Yep, and I had to
That
relive it.
sucks.
Yeah, I was like,
a pro athlete, and I smashed my face. So
I really don't want to talk about it.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, that would be a rough time.
It was pretty bad.
First
and
of
you
all,
saw the looks that I got.
Ask if you got beat up. Like I would just taking a look at you, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't think anybody's really beating you up. I'd be like, who?
At least not any mere mortal, at least.
Good Lord.
Who motivated you to get into strongman?
Ooh, that's a good question. So my coach did actually. I was powerlifting at the time, and he reached out to me and was like, do you want to power lift or do you want to be a world champion? Because I can make you a world champion. And I was like, who is this crazy guy talking to me? Like I don't even know what strongman is. Like I signed up for the comp. I signed up for a comp for fun to support the gym and just to see what it was like. And he coached me through it. And he was like, we're going to do a Platinum Plus meet and you're going to get an Arnold invite and we're going to like make this happen. And I was like, slow down there, buddy. Like, I don't even know if I like this or not. And I fell in love with it completely. And, you know, he really pushed me to like start competing and, you know, learning the events. And it was hard at first. Going from powerlifting to strongman is not easy. Going from doing 3 lifts and laying on a bench for 30 minutes every rep to like running my ass off and like, you know, picking up stuff and walking with it and throwing stuff over my head. It was like it was tough. The transition was really tough. And I feel like everything but the deadlift sort of transferred, like didn't transfer for me. Like bench to overhead didn't transfer for me. My squat, I squatted in wraps, so really no translation there, you know, to help me out with that, unless there's a squat in a, you know, competition, but there's only been one that I've ever done.
Do you think it helped you with your loading events though? Like your yoke, your front carries and stuff like that? Because usually having really strong legs, because I don't think too many people know this, but you were a world record holder for the squat in USPA, right?
USPA, I am the national record holder, and I still have that record to this day because USPA got canceled. So I think I'll forever have that record.
Record's a record, right?
A record's a record, 606.5 or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah, but in wraps, it's a lot easier to squat, I think. It adds like 50 pounds to your squat. Super easy.
Some people, it's like 70 to 80, depending on how good you are using the wraps.
It's if you learn how to use the wraps, you can get so much out of it. It's crazy. But yeah, I think front squatting translates more to like front loads and stuff rather than back squats, which is why you see in my videos I do a lot of front squatting. Like I back squat and I front squat in the same week because that's
I remember when you programmed me. It was a lot
You
of
loved
front
it.
squatting, a lot of sandbag squatting.
Oh
But it
yeah,
helped, and it worked.
It did.
It did.
it helps a lot. Yeah. And with the back squat, I used to low bar squat and like cheat as much as I possibly could to make sure I didn't have to like go down so far. But now I'm like high bars literally at my neck. Like I try to get as much like range of motion as possible.
Mhm.
Just to like get my legs as strong as possible rather than just whose leverages are better. And I think that's what I like about strongman too, is like who it's not about whose leverages are better, it's like who's the strongest.
Yeah.
And
In every sense, yeah.
in every sense, yeah. You can't cheat a frame carry. You can't
No, you
cheat
can't.
an overhead. Like I have
You could
short
be
arms.
Patrick Tony.
Yeah, you can't. You really have to be a well-rounded athlete. And I think that when I was a powerlifter, I didn't feel like an athlete. I felt like I came to the gym, I did my lifts, I ate Sour Patch Kids, I laid on a bench. Like I wasn't serious about it, like I was strongman. And you could tell
Mhm.
like how different of an athlete that I am now that I do strongman versus when I was a powerlifter.
And you could argue that a lot of elite powerlifters now do more of that.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely come around quite a bit. It's not as much of like the whole like, permabulk for victory, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Even like John Hack doing OSG this year, that was impressive. He got like
mhm.
sixth place.
Yeah,
Like
if
that,
he just cleaned up his technique on a few things, he probably would have moved up 2 places.
I completely agree. He's so strong. His deadlift was insane. He won the moving event, which
Mhm.
is like that's impressive for a power lifter to like win a moving event when you are usually stiff and don't move a lot. That's really impressive.
Then the 90 kilo class was they had some of the fastest times outside of like the 80 kilo class.
Oh yeah.
So
No, it was awesome.
it, it's ridiculous. So who are some of your favorite strong women like getting into the sport?
Ooh. So when I first started the sport, I didn't know anybody.
Mhm.
I just because I was a power lifter, so I didn't know anybody. I really didn't follow the sport too much because I was so new to it. But when I first met Andrea Thompson, I was so freaking excited. I was such a fangirl.
Mhm.
And just to know how awesome of a person she is and like getting to know her as a mom and like I thought that was really cool. So Andrea Thompson and looking up to her log world record when she had the log world record, I was like, I want to do that one day. That is so cool. Rebecca Roberts, of course, she's another amazing athlete. And when I first met her, she made me feel so small because she's like 6'4". She's tall.
I was
And
gonna say you're tall.
I thought I was tall. And then I met Rebecca and I was like, I am not tall anymore. Um, yeah. And then Donna Moore, of course, all the
Mhm.
OGs, Kristen Rhodes, you know,
Nice.
and then I met Mel Peacock, Sam Beliveau. I met all the girls that are in like the circuit right now. And I look up to all of them for something. You know what I
That's
mean?
all.
Like everyone's got something that I really admire in them. And I think that everyone has something special that they bring to the table, which is why I love the women's side of the sport so much, is because everyone has that special something about them that makes them the athlete that they are. And I get emotional thinking about it, but I'm like, people watch that and they pay attention to that.
They
And I
do.
think that's what makes us like, that's what's making us stand out more. And that's what's making us get invited to bigger shows. That's what's making us, because we have that spark. Um, the
You
men,
won it. Yeah.
the men had that spark for a long time because they've been in the game for so long.
Mhm.
And now the women, we get to see that spark with them. And I think that that's just awesome.
And just so much more supportive. I mean, like
Mhm.
when Angelica won the Arnold,
You guys all hugged it out.
everybody was like,
Yeah.
I was like, that is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
You'll
And it
never
was
see
so,
the men do that.
it was
Yeah, no.
well, it's so supportive. And like with the men, I feel like sometimes it definitely turns into this like pissing match where it's like, well, like I gotta size you up. It's a part of the sport. Even though they're cool with each other, they kind of, get in this swing of rivalry versus the women are all like, no, you got this. You're great. Even if I fail, you're doing great. If you fail, whatever, who cares? Like it's a lot more supportive, especially in the past like 2 years. But
Oh,
it's really nice to
100%.
see.
And there's a comment, if you watch the Rogue Invitational and you watch the end when I won the competition, everyone came out to hug me. The commentator was like, "Oh, the men aren't going to do that."
Yeah, they're
No.
not. We laughed and we were like, "It's true."
No, like
it's and being a male spectator, like I enjoy watching the women just as much as the men. And there's times where I actually enjoy watching the women more because technically you guys are more sound.
And the technique is a lot
more impressive.
More impressive. Especially as a woman watching, I'm learning from different, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, different body types. Like, oh, okay, like how can I navigate my way through this event due to my body
size,
type? My size, my height, my weight, like seeing all of that and being a lot more technical versus a lot of the men. It's like, okay, you're big, you're tall, and you're strong.
Yeah.
So they all do very similar technique versus like the women. It's all different types of like positioning,
doing stuff. Yeah. And a lot of the time, like, a lot of the men were like track athletes, football players. So they've been in the weight room a long time, for years and years. And then the women, it's like, I started training in high school my freshman year, but we did a lot of power cleans, a lot of snatches, a lot of like explosive stuff. Not really like, but the form was awful. Like we were not corrected with our form. We weren't, told how to do certain things the correct way because there were so many of us in one coach.
Right.
So it's hard to like keep an eye on everybody and like make sure everyone was doing form correctly. But then you had the football teams in there with 5 coaches and they were like paid attention to, and, they were lifting heavy weights in high school, and then they go to college and they have a group of how many coaches in college, you know what I mean?
There's like specialty coaches for everyone, basically, in the sense.
Yeah. And they have designated times when they got the weight room. Like in my college, they had designated times when we weren't allowed in the weight room because the football team had the weight room. Right. And then it was like, I play volleyball and I'm in track. So like, why can't I use the weight room when I want to use it? And it was like, we didn't get the same respect that, the football players got, for example.
It's because of all the money coming in from the football team I take. So
exactly. But it's like, so they have a base of strength that a lot of the women came in the sport didn't have. They started lifting after having children, for example, too. And it's like I started doing powerlifting after I had Lamar. So I didn't go to the gym for like years. And I was like, I don't know how to squat. I don't know how to deadlift right. I don't know how to bench. I don't know how to do any of this. Like I started from zero. And I started powerlifting, and it was easy because it was like 3 lifts. I can learn a little bit, do some accessories, and go home. And then, going to strongman, I was like, I need a lot more stuff now. And I got to like, I got to learn how to do a lot of things. And, I never had that before. So I think that it's awesome that watching the women, especially the moms that have had to start from zero to get to like where they're at now.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. And after just going through that process, it is very inspirational. It is very like impressive to get to such a high class like of athleticism after, kids and families and stuff like that.
And you have a newfound appreciation because you just had a baby, and it's like to go from having a baby back to like pro status is like, holy shit. Like it's a journey. It's a journey, but
just
it's
the local level part.
Yeah. Like more than anything, I want to get back and play with our new Bartos that I bought while I was pregnant and I couldn't use it. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I want to get back in there. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I can do it. I could probably clean it. I don't know if I can put that on my head anymore.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
She'll get it soon. But so kind of touching base with that, how do you think women's athletics has gotten to this point? Do you think obviously you're a big pioneer for that, considering your Rogue Invitational performance and considering like how many people viewed it and how big it was in Scotland? Do you think there's going to be more opportunities like that for the women? Do you think that this is basically just the beginning, and you think that the prize pots are going to be about equivalent with the next few big shows coming up?
I think that the Rogue Invitational was a big push for, like having equal prize money, equal spotlight, equal everything. And I think that more, federations are going to be like, we got to keep up, otherwise people aren't going to want to do our shows, because it's like, if one federation can have that standard, that should be the standard for every federation.
And it's starting to look like that for powerlifting, because it looks like now you can technically make more of a living as a strongman competitor, and the sport's only growing more than powerlifting.
Oh, 100%. Like, the most I made powerlifting was like $3,000 at like
With
at
a
a show.
national
And
record squat.
yeah,
So you spent more money going to meets than you ever made out of the sport, which makes sense.
100%. Yep.
I think
And I've traveled to Iowa to do powerlifting, like for one of my sponsor shows, and like, so I've spent a lot of money and not making a lot of money in return.
Mhm. And do you think that's going to incentivize? Because like it seems like strongwoman has like blown up a lot this year, and obviously with like you, Victoria Long, Andrea Thompson, especially Donna Moore, like you guys took the sport to a whole nother level. And obviously we got Lucy with the 700-pound deadlift. Like, do you think any of those like numbers are going to start being a little more visible in like the lighter classes and like the middleweight classes?
Yeah, I think so. I think because of the interest that we're creating in the sport and like the hype around it, I think that more weight class athletes are starting to get that spotlight. We have Clash. I believe Clash is the federation.
It was. It got rebranded to Pro
PSL.
Strongman League.
There we go. There we go. Sorry, I'm thinking past. But federations like that. Chaos Classic is another one. So like weight class athletes are starting to get the spotlights they deserve as well. Not everyone is 6'1", 300 pounds, and I respect that. So I respect those athletes getting the same amount of recognition as the heavyweight athletes get. And I think it's awesome. It's a start, and people are making waves and people are really pushing for it. And I think that the middleweight and lightweight men have been pushing for this for a long time.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you guys have been pushing for a long time. It's not just, I love Mitch Hooper, but it's not just Mitch Hoopers out there. It's guys like you, guys like, Andrew Hanus and, all those guys out there that are weight class athletes, and they deserve to get prize money. They deserve to have big shows. And I think that, USS and Strongman Corporation are doing a great job at starting to really push. And like the Arnold Amateur, like that's huge to have a platform, to get a pro card, to be on that big stage, to have a way to the Arnold Pro, like stuff like that. That's what's making the sport move ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, just with Strongman Corp Nationals and I think USS Nationals this year, it was the first year that like 90 kilo and 80 kilo men actually had pro cards. Like, because for almost 20 years, there was no pro card system for 80 and 90 kilo athletes. So like, say like, perfect example is like Andrew Pepiot, right? Like, dude won America's Strongest Man, didn't get a pro card for it. And it's like, he's won huge shows. He's one of the strongest 90 kilo guys. Like, he trap bar deadlifted like 900 pounds, weighing under 200. That's insane. Like, there's some heavyweights that aren't doing that. And it's like, oh, well, he doesn't have a pro card. And I'm like, that to me doesn't make sense. That man should get a paycheck for the way he's training. But,
Yeah, seriously. And some people are like, oh, it's just a pro card. But it's like, no, like that pro card is like,
it's a status.
It's
a
everything.
status. Yeah. It's what people strive for their entire career. And, to some people, like not every lightweight woman is going to be able to do the Arnold Pro or the Rogue Invitational. But them having a pro card, that is an elite status that they have that not everyone gets. And I think that's what's the most important part about a pro card is.
Well, and I mean, even then with like how Rhiannon performed in the past few years, like it was a perfect example of people do want to watch lightweight women compete because they're the average weight, in the world, essentially. So it kind of gives people like a basis on like, wow, the average person, like size wise, could eventually do this if they cared enough to train it. Right.
Oh, 100%. Rhiannon is a freak. She is awesome. Every time I watch her training videos, I'm just like I wish.
You're like, man, thank God you're not 6 foot.
If she was 6 foot, she would be, oh my God, we'd be terrified. I'm terrified of her now when she's not 6 foot. Did you see the picture she just posted next to me and Rebecca from OSG?
Yeah.
So
I didn't
funny.
see it.
Yeah, she's really jacked.
She's so jacked and she's so nice. I love Ran.
Well, it reminds me of when I met Nancy Johnson. She
Nancy
is like
Johnson's another.
hooked.
Yes,
Yeah, she's like, she is so jacked. People were like, "Oh, are you a bodybuilder?" And like, because she did a show recently, but like before then, people were like asking her stuff like that all the time. 'Cause she's like so muscular, like not in like a bad way, but she just has a lot of muscle.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that people look like that. Like they can be absolutely jacked, like, and you don't have to be jacked. Like you can look any way and still be a strong man. And I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And that's like the beauty of the sport is like it's not about being one size, one shape, and one fit for the
Yep.
sport. We're all different shapes and sizes, and we still have fun in the sport in that sense.
Oh, totally. 100%. And anybody can get into it. We are hosting like an amateur only show in March at one of my gyms out here. And it's like novice only. It's a beginning to strongman. And it's like, this is how we grow the sport. This is what,
That's awesome.
yeah. And I love it. I love being a judge for it. I love helping out. And being a judge is so fun, but I think it's more stressful than being an athlete. Because
Sometimes
I'm
it
like,
is,
oh my God,
You
it's
wouldn't wanna be
so
a judge.
stressful.
especially if it's a close call, and then you have to feel guilty on whether you turn it down or whatever.
Mine is split times. I can never get the split time right. So I'm like, someone else has to do the stopwatch. I'm not doing the stopwatch.
And honestly, it's better to just be the rep counter and the down caller,
Which is also hard to do at the same time. Like down, click, down, click. Like I have, especially when they're like the weight's light for them and they're just like repping it out. And I'm like, down, down, down.
Yep. He tries to get me to do that for some of his competitions. I'm like, no, I'll just sell T-shirts.
And that works for me.
I'll be the supporter, but I'll be I'll move all the equipment, but don't make me a judge because it's too much pressure.
Oh,
It's a lot
I
of
just
pressure.
remembered a question that I had from somebody from the Q&A questions from our Instagram poll. Somebody asked about what you did differently with your diet this time around, because obviously like you had a really good lean phasing, and then I think this time you did like a really good maintenance phase going into the Rogue, right?
I gained 20 pounds. It wasn't
Yeah.
accidental. It happens.
It's your hair. Your hair got longer.
You're right. And you're a barber, so you can
Loader for
recognize,
life.
It's my hair.
I gained 20 pounds because of my hair. No, I did gain weight. So after OSG 2022, I got down to 225. And I performed like shit. Like I did not feel good. I was really skinny. If you go back on my Instagram, like if you
Yeah,
want to
you had abs.
scroll, I was yoked. And
Mhm.
I felt like shit all the time. And I was like, I can't compete like this. And my coach was like, you need to gain weight. He was like, you look fine. Like, don't worry. Like, don't think that you look bad. Like, but you need to like gain some weight because you're going to be doing heavier weights. And it showed at the Arnold Classic when I was 235 and not able to pick up some weights and not able to do some stuff. And like, my training was a lot harder. So like my diet this time, I work with a girl named Sheb. She's great. If you need a nutritionist, Sheb is awesome. She's on my Instagram, so if you want to check her out, check her out. But we do a meal plan, and we just maintenance. So I'm about 260, 265 right now, and I'm staying that way until probably for the Arnold and the Rogue Invitational, but I'm probably going to lose about 10 to 15 pounds for the summer just to like not be so heavy and out of breath all the time. Because I can't walk up a flight of stairs without dying. So like we're trying to like lower the weight a little bit, and like especially for like North Americas and stuff are not the heaviest shows. So I don't need all this extra weight on me to like move more weight and like, be more cushioned in my body. So
And another thing too about that, because like some people would argue that the 225 that you went down to was probably a good experiment, because now you're like, okay, like now I know how lean I can't be
yes.
for a certain performance. So like, say if you were to like experiment with it again, would you try to be somewhere in between that and where you're at now? Or do you think where you're at now is like just perfect?
I think where I'm at now is perfect. It's probably the best comp weight. My coach agrees.
Mhm.
It's probably the best competing weight for me in maintenance for right now. And then, for the summer, I can play around with it and we can do more of a bodybuilding type, you know, training block and get down a little bit, 10 to 15 pounds and do the maintenance for the summer. And then when the Rogue comes back up, ramp back up to about 260, 265.
Because of course, like a lot of strong men and strong women have been like getting into like pretty much leaning phases just for like health sake,
Yeah.
because like obviously obviously your body fat percentage isn't very high, but there are some people that really push it, and those lean phases are definitely necessary, especially for like the open men division in some cases. But like I think the women tend to be much better about that.
We're a lot smaller, so I think it's a lot easier for us to stay lean and we're not, I think our weights are comparable, so I see why we're as big as we are. But
Mhm.
the men, pushing almost 500-pound log, you're gonna have to weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah.
There's just no way
Unless you're
around it.
Kielskowski.
Unless you're Matej, yes.
But
He's wild. I'm excited for his Arnold performance because he wasn't at the Rogue, so I was really sad about that. But getting to see him come back at the Arnold, I'm very excited for it.
yeah, he's awesome. I'm looking forward to potentially meeting him because I
Oh,
actually get
nice.
to see Arnold.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you are going.
Yeah.
I forgot too. Every week. I'm like, oh yeah, you are going.
Yeah, 5 weeks. I'll see you there.
Can't believe it's 35 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's coming fast. I felt like the Rogue just ended, and then I was in prep a week later.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I feel like I had no time in between, and I'm like, oh my God. But I'm glad that this summer, I'm probably doing 3 comps, but they're not huge, I have to kill myself to perform
Yeah.
really great comps. So it's gonna be more fun for me. I might actually do the Rainier Classic this year too. There's a max stone shoulder, so I'm
Say
Why
no
not?
more.
and a max. I think there's a max log at North America's, so I might go for the world record at North
That's
America's.
awesome.
Yeah, so there's a few opportunities in the summer that I'm toying around with. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna plug in my charger before it
Oh, you're
dies.
good. Yeah, right. End of show.
All right, bye.
Sorry, but before I forget, so oh, okay. So what's your favorite thing about the Arnold besides competing in it?
Ooh, besides being around all my friends because we only see each other at these big shows, I really like the expo. My son likes walking around the expo and getting all the free stuff. So
Nice.
the Arnold's really fun in that regard. Watching the bodybuilders self tanning themselves, walking around the expo is really fun to watch. And just it's like an experience. It's not just like an expo. It's if you're into fitness, this is the place to be for that weekend.
So what other sports are you going to watch when you're not competing, if you have the time?
I watched the jousting with the knights and
Ooh.
stuff. It's so fun to watch. It's ridiculous. They really hit each other hard.
Yeah, they
And
do.
yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, if someone hit me that hard, I'd be pushing them down. I couldn't do that sport.
No.
So aggressive. Yeah. Lots of metal on
Yeah.
metal.
Yeah, and clanking and if someone hit me a little too hard, I'd probably knock them over and be disqualified, and it wouldn't be good.
Well, now they have Knights MMA too.
I was just about to say they have night
Booher
night
is what it's
fights.
called.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we come up with a new sport every year.
Beating the shit out of each other
Mhm.
in night clothing, and it's amazing.
That's
and they have
more my speed right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's one in Maryland. It's
The Renaissance Fair.
Correct term is little people. They have them dressed up in night gear too, and they strictly go at each other. I've seen that also, and I'm just like, oh wow, okay.
I wasn't crazy into pro wrestling, but I saw a match once, and I was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool that they can flip in the air and make sure their timing is so they don't kill each other.
Yeah,
But,
seriously.
How do you not get into it? How do you not be like, no, I'm actually just gonna beat the shit out of you? Like, I can't.
Well, if a dude makes a mistake and like kicks you in the head or something, and then you have to play it off like it didn't happen, that's a rough time too.
Yeah, couldn't do it. Strongman's hard enough.
Are you going to be at any particular booths for the Arnold? Like Cerberus or anything like that?
I don't know yet. Probably maybe Cerberus. We'll see. It just depends. I'm usually too tired to do anything, so
I don't blame you. That sounds like a rough time.
I was gonna say you probably don't really feel like doing much after that.
I think we start at 1 on Saturday though. So I mean Friday. So like probably in the morning I'll walk around for a little bit just to get the blood flowing and stuff and go back to the hotel, get my stuff and come back. So I might go check out the different booths and stuff. So we'll see.
And have they ever changed like the scheduling for athletes like the year prior or anything like that?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not too overlapped with the amateur, the pro-am, that is.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. I would like to go watch the amateur the pro-am. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, because now it's considered a world championship, which it should have been in the first place, but I think it's because the open divisions, they do it that way.
Yeah.
What is your go-to thing to eat or snack on when you're competing in such a heavy show like that?
Uncrustables, which is it's so hard to find. It's like when you're in a city that is doing a competition, you go to the grocery store that's in the city, there are no Uncrustables.
Why?
Like any grocery store, because everyone sells them out. And then you see every athlete with like their own personal 5 boxes.
You get them in the grocery store and go, hi!
Like, I'm going to have to buy them here and travel with them, like, to Ohio.
Carry on.
Well, I drive because it's only 4.5 hours for me. So I'm driving. And I'm just
That's why I know you're not from like the major city end, because like a 4.5 hour drive, it's a long drive for us.
Oh yeah, no.
Like,
Midwest.
So BJ's like membership for the local area and be like, all right, give me all your Uncrustables.
Record
that's
for
exactly
eating
what I'm gonna do. Yep. I had to make PB&J's at the Rogue and they were so dry. I was like, oh my God. Because they don't use like artificial anything in the UK. So I was just like, I want Jif peanut butter. I want Smuckers. Like, I hate this. Like, I don't want this natural.
It's too natural and dry.
The driest peanut butter I've ever ate in my life.
I hate it.
So the chat just came in. Dan asked if what is your record for eating Uncrustables?
Ooh, my record. I've probably, for like one competition, I've ate probably like 13 or 14.
Ooh.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Frozen or room temperature? Because
frozen
tastes. Thank you.
Yep,
tastes
frozen.
like a delicious
I
treat.
agree.
Yeah.
Yep, it's like you're eating.
Snap of the peanut butter. Oh,
yeah.
So good.
I was going to say, I remember going to, I don't know if you had those Nathan Payton nutrition seminars that he does right before comps, but he was saying what honey and peanut butter and Chinese food after weigh-in or something like that. So
it's
like
the best way to rehydrate you.
Because it's dry
not
food.
Not altogether, but like
better.
if you wanted to eat something, it was peanut butter and honey on a sandwich, or Chinese food was.
Chinese food makes sense though because it's carbs and salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
literally all he was saying.
Yeah, that's my go-to after weigh-in because I don't weigh in. Meal is always like cheeseburger, so I get a cheeseburger.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do steak potatoes or I'll do sushi.
Sushi's
and
a good
then I'll
one.
do a milkshake and a few other things, but I eat like a heavyweight.
Yeah, so do I.
It's always funny after you're weighing. Like, you're the one who decided to be a weight class athlete. I am not.
I'm just like passing out, nearly dying with my IV.
Like, I'm great.
Oh, I remember coaching you for nationals, and I was like, please don't die.
I literally thought I was going to die. Well, the nationals wasn't too bad a water cut. It was like Delaware Strongest Man was probably my hardest water cut.
Ugh.
That I had to spit in a cup for like 2.5 hours.
It was a
I've
cup
seen
in
some
the
athletes
bag.
do that.
I had to drive and had to watch him spit in a bag for an hour down to the beach. I'm like,
And she's very squeamish about random sound effects.
It's
So
like,
That's the worst.
oh man. I won't hold you up too much because it is like 9:00. Sorry about that.
Oh no, you guys are the parents. Like my son's playing Fortnite. He does not care.
I was gonna say baby's sleeping in the crib right now. It's great.
He feels great. I'm like,
Cindy's like, I haven't slept in 2 weeks.
Yeah, she like kind of refuses to sleep to a certain
just
degree.
got done hallucinating. All right.
So
I
if
was like
you
that
were to-
too when my son was born. I didn't sleep for like 3 months because I was like, is he alive? Is he breathing? Like
yeah.
every little
like,
movement.
hour, I'm like,
Yeah, right.
this amount of sleep is mighty suspicious.
So like, what's your recommendation for women that are just had a kid and are getting into strong women? Postpartum
Athletes.
yes. Postpartum
Yeah.
athletes.
Take it light and don't focus on what you did before. That's going to be the hardest part is like, oh, I used to press this on the log. I got to get, yeah, back in my day, like I used to do this, but you need to start slow and like get the fundamentals back because you probably lost a lot of the fundamentals like when you were pregnant. I know like I didn't have a lot of mobility. I don't have a lot of mobility right now, but I focus on those things, focus on the recovery, focus on like the little things that you may have missed before, and then create really good habits because those habits are going to carry on and like you're just going to get stronger with good habits versus just getting stronger and having like really shit habits.
And going gun ho and hurting myself again. Kind of.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah, don't. Let's go to nationals in one piece, please.
Dan said, Frozen is much better.
Yeah, his questions are pretty good. So I had a few people ask me about what it's like being a pro strong woman. So I guess like, how is it now being a pro strong woman versus when you first started? I guess is probably the better point on it.
It's really cool to like be on the big stage and like have people like interview you and like you feel like an actual celebrity sometimes. And for a sport that's like strongman, like it's not the biggest sport. It's not like a football or basketball team or something. It's like, and it's individual, which is what I like a lot about the sport. But it's like, when they're interviewing you and like you feel important. And I think like I've never felt like so important in my life. And it's like I inspire people and I motivate people to get into the gym and I motivate moms to like have something other than just, I feel like a mom and I feel guilty that I'm doing something for myself. And like, I'm that person that's, maybe telling them like, hey, you don't need to feel guilty about doing something for yourself. And, that's like a day in the life of me is just, trying to like convey that through my social media. I'm very active on social media. If anybody reaches out, like I'll respond to them and like have a conversation about strongman. I love talking about strongman. But you feel like a celebrity and it's in the best way possible. You're not like Jennifer Lawrence or like, you know what I mean? But you're inspiring to somebody that is in the sport. And I think that that's the coolest thing ever.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So one of my biggest things has always been, how does it feel to be borderline like a superhero with the amount of strength that you have in your day-to-day life? How much do you have to like contain yourself with like the amount of like, I could literally throw this person across the room? Like, how do you handle that? How do you handle like those urges of being like, I could really bend you in half right now. Like I really just don't stop talking to me. How do you handle that?
I'm a huge sensitive baby and everything makes me cry. So you'll probably make me cry before I get to those thoughts of like, I can actually break you in half.
Yeah, you cry, but then you're like, but I could still like, I might be sobbing, but I could still bend you in half. Like, and then you're just kind of like, okay.
It was hard when Lamar was smaller because I'm like, I could throw you like on the couch and I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, let me not throw you too hard on the couch.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I'm really sensitive. Like a lot of things get to me really easily, and like I'm learning that it's like you gotta not let things get to you, and like you gotta, you know, shake things off. But I'm like, oh, someone blocked me on Instagram, or someone like removed me, or I can't see their story, or like something like that. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And it's like I'm gonna break them for it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I'm just big sensitive baby over here, and like I know I'm too nice. I am.
But it's like it's also just like kind of cool where you're just like I remember meeting you for the first time and being like, oh my god, this is so intimidating. Like you're just sitting up just yoked, super tall, and you're like, no, I'm just a big baby.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you want to get something to eat? I'm like, what? You literally could walk into someone, just stare at somebody, and they'd be like, oh my god, and you're like, hi.
Well, I hear Rebecca Roberts is the same way too, right?
Oh,
Like just
literally
a big
the same
sweetheart.
exact way. Yep.
Mhm.
She's a huge sweetheart, and I love her to death.
Yeah.
So, kind of touching base with that. Why did I forget what I was going to say?
It's late.
It is, but also, did has the politics gotten better? You think in strong women today compared to what it used to be?
Politics and like, what do you mean?
So like opportunity, people getting invites, because like obviously there was. I'm not going to go too into detail with invites, but I think you know what I'm getting at. It seems like it's more straightforward on who's getting invited to what.
Yeah, I think with the new system and like the pro card system and like the way the road to the Arnold and stuff, I think that that's going to get better because they're going to have people are not if they're not performing well, they're not going to get invited back. And I think that is like it's going to put a pep in someone's step, you know what I mean, to like perform better and like take it seriously. But I think it's just getting better. I think it was hard at first because like the sport wasn't too big and like not a lot of people were doing strong women at the time when the pro series started at the Arnold, and then Rogue took it over and they were like, well, who are these girls? You know what I mean? Like, we don't know them. Like, this is new and it's new for us and it's newer for them too. So it's like, we're going to take the same 10 girls and we're going to like start the circuit with them. And now it's like, start with like Jennifer Lyles joining and, Aaron Murray joined last year, Angelica. And it's like all this new talent's coming in. So I think that that's getting better. I think for the men, it's a little more interesting because some invites you're like, what? Like,
Yeah,
how? Like,
a
where'd you
lot
get that
of
one from? Yeah,
maybe I'm saying this being an American, but it's like I know there's politics at play. I'm not going to talk too much about it because like there's things I don't know that I won't talk too much about. But like I remember people going off about, well, at the Shaw Classic, you get an invite if you win North America's, but that's not even a Giants Live invite. And I'm like, does he understand that that's politics at play? Because literally most of the North Americans can literally beat half the dudes in Europe.
I
So
saw
it's
that.
like,
I saw that
so
on
it's like,
Reddit.
so it's like, those are the conversations where you
Yeah.
kind of think about it and you're like, something's not right here, but I get it. Like there has to be like diversity in countries that's present. So like I understand that some of that may have some overlap. And it's, I mean, usually no one talks about how like Britain is like reigning supreme on invites, but whatever.
But like, and then you also have shows like OSG where the open men get an invite to Giants Live if you
Mhm.
So it's like they have a direct pathway to Giants Live show. Like now there's a direct pathway to Strongest Man on Earth is doing the North America Strongest. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
And also you could argue that the guys who are winning that show are doing well at Worlds. They're doing well at the other shows.
yeah,
So why does it matter?
exactly.
And
It's the best people get invites, I think.
Mhm.
So Brian Shaw does a great job with that show. I think he puts on a really he had the most talented people at that show.
I would
And
agree.
it really showed the caliber of performance was just phenomenal and like it was so smooth and like it was so much fun to watch. So I think that that is, politics aside, like I think that they make the right decisions on who gets to be invited, and I think that there are pathways now for you to go to those shows that are invites only, and
Mhm.
competing more is only going to make you better. So I think that, if you want to be in the Rogue Invitational, it's like you're going to have to start competing and performing really well at bigger shows. Winning OSG, that's a way to get you noticed. Winning the Shaw Classic, that's a way to get your name out there. You can't just perform, mediocrely at a smaller show and be like, I want to be, at the Invitational. And it's like, we don't know who you are. Like you have to make a name for yourself, a brand for yourself. And I think that a lot of people are starting to realize that it's like important to have social media presence too. I am really good friends with a strong woman who is amazing. She's amazing middleweight. And I'm like, you just don't post on social media. So I'm like, nobody knows who you are. I'm like, that's how people find out, who you are, is through your social media now. It's not just like word of mouth. It's like, bigger pages sharing your stuff and like sponsorships and all that good stuff. That's how, you get to those levels, and that's how you get to the Pro Series.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the viewership does come down to people either relating to the personality or just thinking that the character that is presented is fun. I mean, that's why Evan Singleton's such a big deal in Strongman. Like,
he's so fun.
Yeah, because he made a good personality, and he has like that whole WWE personality, and he puts it out in Strongman. And I think it adds viewership, and that's what people want.
Yep. Nope, 100%. And as much as I hate being on social media, it's like it's the way the world is. It's part of the job, and it's like part of the job to, be motivational, be inspirational, be positive, be that person that you want to see, on your social media. And I think that presence is super important.
Do you think a lot of pro athletes kind of pick low-hanging fruit sometimes? Like they'll have content that's just like not really relevant to the sport, just to kind of just kind of put it out there.
Yeah, I think the major things are like diet, nutrition, like fitness tips, stuff like that, and then like event training tips, I think are super important. But a lot of the other stuff is like, I'm not big on the influencer stuff, like the challenges and stuff. I'm like,
oh yeah,
nobody at my gym would do anything like that with me. So I'm like, I would never even attempt to like try to get someone to do that with me.
Start your dumbbell press a person. Put a belt on them.
Next time I come over there, we're gonna find someone to do it with, and I will do it. But yeah, like I'm not good at that stuff. It may be low hanging fruit, but like it's entertaining to watch, and I think that's important too, is the entertainment factor.
Well, I think there's some stuff where like strongman is a showman sport, and I think they need to keep it that way. And obviously, like there's parts of it where it's like, oh, we want to have calibrated stones. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm getting at. It's like, oh, everything needs to be in kilos. Everything needs to be like perfect flooring, perfect everything. And it's like the sport started in parking lots, and before it was officially a sport.
Have you been to a real strongman competition where it's literally just like
the floor's like this?
Yeah.
The worst equipment, the worst flooring, and you're outside. Literally in Delaware, it was snowing the one year.
Yeah.
We're like, yep, here we go.
It was snowing at the beach. It was awful.
Oh my God.
But kind of going forward with that, do you think that a lot of strongman has almost turned into like not necessarily powerlifting where it's like too standardized, but like do you think it's going to go in that direction, or do you think it's just going to get weirder at some point?
I think it's going to stay weird because that's what people want to watch. I don't think people like, if you want to watch powerlifting, like you watch powerlifting. If you want to watch people throwing some weird shit over their head and like throwing bags and like that sort of stuff, like you watch, deadlifting cars. Like if you want to watch the cool stuff, you do strongman. And I think that's what separates us from other sports, is like it's unpredictable. And I think that they give us like the most, like I think our stone is it's like 297, and it's like no one's gonna be like, oh, it's 297, not 300. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody really cares, and I like really that about. Yeah, and I like that about strongman. When I was a powerlifter, I didn't even use kilo plates because I can't do kilo math. So I'm like, even when I was a powerlifter, I didn't care about all that stuff.
Well, kind of going on to that, like I remember there was a few times where I would just mess with people and like tell them how much I could lift. And then I actually like experimented it. I was like, oh, well, I lifted 400 and I lifted 500 on this. And I didn't even tell them what the lift was. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And they had the same reaction for 500 than 400. So it's like the numbers don't matter as much. But if you tell somebody you deadlifted a car, there's a whole different reaction to that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
My favorite is telling clients like, oh, like, is that like powerlifting? And I was like, no, you know, we lift up rocks and we deadlift cars. I pulled trucks, you know, I pulled fire trucks and all this stuff. They're like, what?
Excuse me?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, we like to do weird, like in the mountain lifting things. Like they're weird people. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely neat how strongman's still like very much a spectacle, or at least I think it should stay that way. And
showmanship. Yeah,
the showman aspect has been even before it was a sport, when it was in the circus. So,
and I like that it's staying true to its sport. You know, it's like the elephant bar record. I completely understand having calibrated plates for that and like have that standardized because it's like an actual record. I wonder how they're going to do the plates for the big jerk, because I feel like that's going to be a record eventually. And
they're probably going to use like Rogue kilo bumpers or something like that just to make sure they'll fit.
And which bar they're going to use and all that stuff. But like, I like that Slater makes his stones. I like that the logs are made out of wood. I like that everything's just pretty and like it
looks cool. Yeah. Like when we were watching you do the Arnold last year, and we were telling all our friends about it. We were playing the live at like our jobs and stuff, and people were like, "Holy shit, that's like a big tree!" And I was like, "Yeah, she's putting that over her head." And they're like, "What?"
Yeah, we're pressing trees.
It's log. It's fun.
But like that's like the thing too, because like I think with powerlifting, what makes people not watch it as much or like not have the spectatorship to it, and that's probably why the money isn't really there, to be honest with you, is there's no context to it. Like, you don't know if somebody squatted an elephant or if they squatted, I don't know, a heavy dude, you know?
Yep. Yeah, and everything's in kilos, so I have no idea what they're lifting.
I rely on my app way too much.
Well,
the Load the Bar app.
Well, they'll write it in pounds at like the top of the screen.
Bad.
But if you tell somebody 900 pounds, like they're like, wow, that's heavy. But if you're like, hey, that's the weight of 3 refrigerators.
I went to a show. Funny enough, I did judged at a show, and they did a refrigerator yoke. So it was 2 refrigerators attached to a yoke, and I was like, that's 2 refrigerators they're picking up right there. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like myself, like for promoting, I was gonna make a car yoke, but I couldn't scrap it in time, so because it got towed. But anyways, long story short, it's just one of those things where like, what's an event where like the second you do it, you're like, wow, I just did that. Like I'm basically a superhero in the making.
That was the first time I did log. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Because I've never done an overhead like that ever. And then circus dumbbell was probably a close second because I was like, this is pretty cool. I hate circus dumbbell though. So like,
I love
don't
circus.
say twisted. I hate circus because you're so good at it. You're like,
thank you.
You have like the perfect form. Like,
I just studied the life out of you guys. That's all.
Don't study me because it's not good.
I watched, I think, Mateusz Kieliszkowski do his world record, I think, like 10 times before I tried it, because I was really bad at circus dumbbell when I first did it. Like, I think my best circus dumbbell before that was like 125, 130, and I just couldn't get above 135 for a while. And then I trained it for like a year and a half, and then it went up like 50 to 80 pounds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how good and how efficient you are at circus dumbbell. I'm like, I need some of that. I'm lucky that it's only 155 at the Arnold, because I'm like, if it was any heavier, I'm like, I did 160 for 2 though this week, and I was like,
it looked good with a rounded dumbbell too.
I prefer the rounded dumbbell now because it's the only one I have to train on. So I had to learn how to love it. It is. It's harder. There's no like way to like rest it like on you. Like, you know how the cylinder has like that flat side where you can like rest it. with the cylinder, it's just like,
You have to put it behind your head.
yeah, and it's hard to like keep your elbow forward, and it's once you get used to it though, it's not so bad.
Do you think like behind the neck jerks help a lot with that, or like snatch balances?
I do behind the neck snatch presses. I don't do jerks behind the neck. I'm not coordinated enough. I tried. We did it.
I mean, if you can split jerk the way you do, I disagree, but
A
that's
for
okay.
Definitely not like behind the neck though is a whole different like I
The
don't know. I
timing's a
can't.
little quicker,
Yeah,
for sure.
I like the front rack. I'm a natural front rack person, and I'm just way more efficient in that position. Everyone's doing behind the neck though for the Arnold, so it's exciting to see people trying something new.
Yeah, because like mechanically speaking, it is a shorter bar path, and it
Yeah.
forces you to press in a straight line. Because like there's more mistakes you can make in the front rack position. I mean, obviously, if you do press it wrong, you can hit the back of your head. I've
Oh
seen
yeah.
people do that before.
I got like a huge scrape on my chin if you could see it because I
Mhm.
was like rolling the bar into me and I like got back too far and I like choked myself out with it. And I was just like, man, if I do this at the Arnold, I'm gonna be so embarrassed.
Well, at least you made the mistake now, and you know what not to do.
I'm so forceful, like getting it onto my like on my chest or whatever to get my elbows as high as possible. So I'm like, I'm gonna knock myself out one day.
Oh, no.
I did that with the fingle finger, except I didn't knock myself out. I just like hit
Oh,
myself in the
yeah.
chin, and I was like, "Oh, that wasn't fun."
I still have yet to do a competition with one of those.
Well, hopefully you get a chance
I
to,
love them.
because you flipped over. For context, at the training center, we have a fingle finger that weighs 275 empty, and you flipped it pretty easy. I think the first
Yeah.
time you struggled with it, and then you pretty much were like a natural right after.
Yeah, you showed me how to actually do it, and I was just like fucking around with it, and then you actually showed me how to do it, and I was like, oh, this is not bad.
Yeah, it's really not that bad.
It's so much fun.
It's just like you have to power clean it. If you don't do it fast, then you can't get it.
Yeah. But as soon as you get to your test, it's just like walk it.
Oh yeah. Do you think they'll probably put in something like that at the Arnold, or definitely Strongest Man on Earth would have something like that because he likes fingle finger a lot.
Yeah, I think so because they have the room for it and they like to make their equipment. So I think they would make one for us one year.
That'll be cool. Have you gotten an invite
To
the Shaw Classic?
the Shaw Classic for the women, it's not an invite. It's
Oh, you sign up only.
yeah, it's sign up only. And then they cap it at like 100 or something like that. And then it's like OSG. Friday is like
You have
the
to pay to sign up.
Yep, and then Saturday, Sunday is the finals.
Do you think eventually they'll have like an open circuit with that?
Yeah, Strongest Woman on Earth, I think will be a thing pretty soon. Hopefully next year would be awesome.
Cool. Hopefully he announces it sooner rather than later because it's money waiting to happen.
It's a big show already, so just imagine like having the women's circuit on that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, you'd fill up the stadium.
Yeah, Harry and Brian do a great job with the athletes, though. So I really think that they're going to make an effort to do that show in the next few years.
Do you think OSG will be like the only path into the women's pro circuit, or do you think the Arnold is going to be like probably more of a prominent choice at this point?
I think Strongman Corp is going to be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I think Strongman Corp, especially with the Arnold Amateur and the Arnold World Championship, I think that it's the way to the Arnold Pro, and then the Arnold Pro is with Rogue, and then once Rogue knows who you are, like they're able to give you opportunities.
Do you think the women's middleweight will eventually have like their own strong woman classic?
I think that'd be awesome. But just like the men, I don't think there'll be with a middleweight women's class.
Because they invite a lot of middleweight women.
Huh?
They invite a lot of middleweight women. Like you have what?
They
Aaron, Melissa, Sam, and now you have Nadia back. So it's
Nadia. Oh yeah, Nadia's coming too. I love Nadia.
Yeah, this is a good squad of like small but mighties.
Small but mighties. Yes, I like that. Yeah. I think that's the difference with the women and the men, though, is that we invite 82 kilos. to compete with the Open. The men, it's not. It's like straight open. So
Yeah, I think with a lot of the middleweight men, they have to really push to do like some like peculiar like European competition. Like I feel like Nicholas Camby should have been invited off the rip, but like he had to do Italy's strongest and then he went to Europe's. And
oh
then he
yeah,
got
he
his
did Italy's strongest. I forgot about that.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
but
heard on
like just
Reddit Nick Guardione is gonna do Italy's strongest.
I don't know why he wouldn't get invited offhand because of the OSG win.
Yeah, because he's doing Giants Live already. So
Yeah, so he shouldn't like as long as he podiums, right? He should be fine.
I think so.
Because
Isn't
like
Britain's this weekend? Britain's strongest.
I think so, yeah.
That should be fun to watch. I love watching the big shows. They're fun to watch.
They're really fun. I think Europe's will be fun this year too. The
When is that?
Kaliskowski should be back. It's usually in the summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like after I think it's after the Arnold UK.
Oh, okay. Arnold UK is. I haven't heard anything about it yet.
I don't know if they're doing it this year, but usually it's after that, like that time period.
Well, last year it was 2 weeks after the Arnold, and that was
I can
rough.
imagine that was a nightmare to recover from.
It was a nightmare. And then my face having to fly with the pressure in my face, I was like, this sucks.
That's terrible. So like all that atmospheric pressure just going straight into your head.
Yeah. I had to get cleared by 2 doctors.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because one doctor was like, I don't know, let's get a second opinion. The other doctor was like, you'll be fine. So it works for me.
And you did pretty good considering like the injury too.
I got 4th. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
4th in the world? Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
The Arnold UK had a lot. The events were harder, I think, for the
Yeah,
Arnold
they
UK than the Arnold was.
And like I think the talent like split for like the events was better too. Like it wasn't like too athletic and it wasn't like too static.
It was just too many freaking grip events back to back. I was like, I cannot do.
Well, the tiebreaker was
Grip
a grip
is my
event
worst.
too.
The tiebreaker was a grip event. They always do that though, and I'm like, man, if I ever tie, like, just give it to. I got 2nd place. Like, it's not happening.
What's your favorite event that you've never done?
In competition, that's a good one. I've done almost everything, I think. Probably max axle clean and jerk for a max. I've never got to do that in a competition. I've done it for a press away, but I've never done it for like a max. And I think that that'd be pretty cool.
Get that world record in.
Oh yeah.
So
It's like 297 right now. So no one's broken the 300 barrier yet.
yeah, you could definitely do that. I think for you, it's just a matter of the clean, right?
It's just a matter of the clean. Yeah.
And would you be allowed to belt clean for that, or is it like no belt clean
I'm
allowed?
pretty sure you could belt clean.
Okay.
For it depends on the federation when you do it though, because every federation is different. Like at Rogue, we weren't allowed to touch our belts, but
Mhm.
Strongman Corp, you're allowed to belt clean. So I think it just depends.
Mhm.
Sorry, my phone's about to die.
Oh, you're all good.
There we go.
It's hot in here because of the baby.
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
I don't miss that.
floor.
Yeah, I don't turn my heat on in the winter normally.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
my
'cause we're in the
window.
middle floor.
And I'm just a polar bear. But anyway. Okay.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think that wraps it up pretty much today.
I'm a polar bear. Let's go.
Yeah, she's sleepy. Let's call it a day.
My brain
Sounds
doesn't work.
fun.
But do you want to?
I was gonna end the streaming. We could still talk afterwards.
Well, yeah, be like, thank you. We can still.
Obviously, thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Everybody's watching, like, okay, we're done.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well,
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you doing this live Q&A, and sorry for keeping you up.
No, it was great having you guys. Thank you so much.
That was a good one.